This is why you should always tell the truth. After James moved into a new apartment, he saw something horrifying. He had met his neighbor who was a beautiful woman. Then after, he found a hole in his wall, so he began spying on her. But one day he saw her getting attacked, and even though he saw the attacker, he didn't say anything when the police came to investigate. This was because he didn't want to get in trouble for spying on his neighbor. But he could have never known that this decision would come back to haunt him. One day, months later, he heard noises coming from his neighbor's apartment, which was strange because it had been empty since the attack happened. So once again, James looked through the hole in the wall. Then he saw something he could never explain. The noises stopped. James' heart was beating loudly. Then he moved back a little, and as his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he saw a wide open eye staring back at him through the hole in the wall. James screamed in horror, but that eye remained still. It kept staring at him until a woman's raspy voice hissed through the wall. "I know you saw." What would you do if you received this as a gift? Once there was a girl named Lucy who received a strange gift from someone unknown. She was so excited, so she opened the package quickly, but she could have never expected what was inside the box. She pulled out a doll, but it wasn't just a regular doll. It was bald, covered in cracks, and something was wrong with his teeth. They looked pointy and beastly, almost like they were made from real animal teeth. She told her mom she needed to throw it out, but her mom told her to be grateful, so Lucy put the doll in a cupboard under the stairs so she wouldn't have to look at it. But at night, something terrifying happened. Right before she was about to fall asleep, she heard a small voice say, "Lucy, I'm on the first step." In the morning, she told her mom, who dismissed it and said that she was just having a nightmare, so Lucy went to school as normal and tried to ignore it as much as possible. But the next night she heard the same voice again. "Lucy, I'm on the fourth step." She kept telling herself it was just a dream, until the same voice returned a third time, but this time louder and closer. "Lucy, I'm on the top step." The next morning her parents found that in the middle of the night, Lucy must have tried to go downstairs to go to the bathroom and fell and broke her neck. During the funeral, her toys, including that doll, was buried with her. Her mother said Lucy loved her dolls. Now they can be together forever. What would you do if this happened to you? Once a young woman named Claudia was about to walk home when it started raining heavily. Not wanting to be rained on, she decided she should get a taxi instead. As she walked down the empty streets past the cemetery, a taxi approached her. She got in and quickly realized something was wrong. She began feeling unusually cold and noticed the windows were covered in ice. Then things got even weirder. Claudia realized that they were going the wrong way. She blurted out to the driver, "We're going the wrong way," but got no response. She raised her hand to tap him on the shoulder and the driver looked back. Claudia let out a scream. She couldn't believe what she saw. The driver's face was withered and pale, his skin clinging tightly to his bones. Claudia began to panic. She tried to open the door and jump out, but nothing worked. She even banged on the windows to try to get passers-by's attention, but nobody heard her. Then, in a fit of desperation, Claudia began to scratch at the driver to make him stop driving. His withered face came off into her hand, revealing a gleaming white skull beneath. Claudia and that taxi was never seen again.
So how can someone complete 4 world tours, record 4 albums, while also performing and selling out an entire Las Vegas show, while her paperwork says she has dementia? In 2008, Britney was placed under a temporary conservatorship at the age of 26. She had her famous breakdown that became household news overnight on January 4th of 2008. She had really hit rock bottom and was going through her custody dispute with Kevin Federline, and then was locked up again around January 31st. And this particular psych hospital that she was taken to had less than the best reviews. And this is when her conservatorship became permanent, due to her being unfit to take care of herself. Yet 2 months in, she ended up showing up for a role on How I Met Your Mother, and then wiped the floors at the VMAs, winning all the awards. In 2009, she had her circus tour, and a voicemail between her and her lawyer was leaked, saying that she desperately wanted to get out of this conservatorship, but that her father was threatening her. She did her Femme Fatale tour next, and then in 2012, she was an X Factor judge. Yet she was still deemed too unfit to take care of herself.
If you ever hear someone whistling, don't do what she did. Once a girl moved to Peru with her dad, who started a new job as an English teacher. But one night something strange happened. She looked out the window and saw a long dark shadow moving through the trees. Then as the shadow approached her bedroom window, she heard a whistling sound. Not thinking much of it, she began whistling back to it. Her father came to check on her and found her daughter still facing the windows, whistling to something unknown. He asked, "What are you doing?" And she replied, "Whistling at the dark figure in the trees." And as soon as the father looked outside, he took his daughter and locked her in the closet. Then he broke the key in the lock and locked the windows. And from the inside of the closet, the girl could hear her father saying prayers, but all of a sudden it stopped. Then she heard a scream. The bedroom windows shattered and she heard her father's screams fade into the distance. The next morning, the girl was found by villagers investigating the damage to the house. Her father was never found, and eventually she was adopted by her aunt and uncle. Years later, she still sleeps inside a locked closet, in fear that the dark creature that once whistled to her would someday return for her. Are you brave enough to try this? Once there was a young woman named Natalie who went to visit a loved one at a cemetery. It was late at night, so she got tired and found a stone bench to sit on to take a break before heading home. But this turned out to be a terrifying mistake. Soon she heard the voice of a woman. It grew closer and closer until it turned into a scream, but no one was there. Natalie tried to leave, but she looked down and she saw a pair of hands grabbing her feet. She shook herself free and ran as fast as she could, not being sure what just happened. She got home and carried on with her life, trying to forget it. But soon one night when she was alone, she heard that same voice again. What Natalie didn't know is that night in the cemetery, she had unknowingly sat in the devil's chair, an urban legend originating in Florida that every year on a special night, a chair would rise from the ground in a cemetery. This chair is rumored to be built by the devil himself, and he would even return to sometimes sit in it. And if you dare sit in his chair, you would have made a deal with the devil. He will whisper evil ideas into your ear and haunt you forever, or he will return for you when you least expect it.